Alex was a young human soldier, part of the Earth's defense forces. He had been stationed on a distant planet at the edge of the galaxy, far from his home and the people he loved. This planet was a strange and hostile place, filled with various alien species. Some were peaceful, but others were not. It was a dangerous place to be, but Alex had learned to adapt. He focused on his duties and kept to himself. The war between humans and other alien races had been raging for years. The Galactic Council had sent fleets across the stars trying to maintain peace. Alex was just one soldier, but he understood the importance of his mission. He knew that every action, no matter how small, could help turn the tide of the war. But nothing in his training had prepared him for the day. He met the Vokari Queen. The Vokari were an ancient and powerful species. They ruled a vast empire, and their queen Alara was known across the galaxy as a fierce leader. She had fought countless battles, and her people were feared by all who encountered them. But when Alex was sent to deliver supplies to the Vokari, he never expected to meet her. He didn't know that a single moment would change his life forever. The Vokari planet was massive, covered in towering cities and sprawling forests. When Alex arrived, he was escorted by soldiers to the Queen's palace. The palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was built into the side of a mountain with spires reaching high into the sky. The walls were adorned with symbols and carvings that told the story of the Vokari's long and powerful history. As they entered, Alex could feel the weight of their past. He was led into a grand hall where Alara was waiting. She stood tall, her regal presence commanding respect. Her appearance was striking, her skin was a deep shade of violet, and her eyes glowed with a soft golden light. She wore armor that shimmered in the light, a symbol of her status and power. But as Alex looked at her, he saw something else, a weariness in her eyes that he hadn't expected. She looked tired, burdened by the weight of her responsibilities. "Welcome, human soldier," Alara said, in a voice that was both strong and calm. "I trust your journey was uneventful." Alex nodded, unsure of how to respond. He had met many alien leaders before, but none had made him feel this way. There was something different about her. "Yes, Your Majesty. I've brought the supplies, as requested." Alara's eyes softened for a moment. "Thank you. You were brave to come so far. The galaxy is a dangerous place these days." Alex wasn't sure how to respond to that. He was just doing his job, but it felt strange to be in the presence of someone so powerful. They stood there for a moment in silence, neither knowing what to say next. Finally, Alara spoke again. "I imagine that you two are tired," she said. "The war takes a toll on all of us. Please, sit with me." Alara motioned for Alex to take a seat at a large table, and he did so, still unsure of what to expect. He had been trained to be cautious, especially around alien leaders, but something about Alara made him feel at ease. Perhaps it was the way she spoke, or the way her gaze seemed to understand him. Whatever it was, he found himself relaxing. "I've seen many warriors, human and alien alike," Alara said, looking down at her hands, "but few have shown me kindness." Alex felt a sense of unease at her words. He wasn't sure what she meant, but he knew that it wasn't the time to ask. Instead, he offered a simple gesture. He reached across the table and slid a cup of water toward her, a small offering of goodwill. Alara looked at the cup, her golden eyes studying it for a moment. She then looked up at Alex, surprised by his gesture. "You offer me water?" asked softly, as though she couldn't quite believe it. Alex nodded, feeling a bit awkward. "It's just water. I thought you might be thirsty." The Queen's expression softened further, and for a brief moment, Alex saw something in her eyes that he hadn't expected: vulnerability. It was fleeting, like a shadow passing over her face, but it was there. Alara reached for the cup, her hands delicate and graceful, and took a sip. "Thank you," she said, her voice quieter than before. They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of the situation settling between them. Alex wasn't sure what to say. He had come here to deliver supplies, to do his job, but this moment felt different. He had seen the power Alara wielded, and yet, in that small act of kindness, She seemed human in a way. It made him wonder how someone so powerful could be so lonely. As they sat together, Ilara broke the silence once again. "Tell me, human," she began, "what is it that drives you? Why do you fight in this endless war?" Alex thought for a moment before answering. "I fight to protect my people, to keep them safe." Ilara's eyes searched his face as if looking for something more. "And what about yourself? What do you fight for?" Alex hesitated. He'd never really thought about it that way before. "I guess... I fight to survive." Lara nodded slowly. "We are alike in that regard." Alex didn't know how to respond. He wasn't sure what Ilara meant, but something in her words made him feel connected to her. There was more to her than just the queen of a powerful empire. He could sense that. And for the first time, Alex found himself wanting to understand her, to see beyond the armor and the authority. Just as the conversation seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm, Lara stood up abruptly. "I must prepare for the council meeting," she said, her tone shifting back to its usual command. "But I thank you for your kindness, human soldier. You have done something few have ever done." Alex stood as well, unsure of what to say next. He didn't want to leave, but he knew that his time here was limited. "It was my pleasure, Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly. Ilara regarded him for a long moment before speaking. "Perhaps we will meet again, under better circumstances." Alex nodded. "I hope so, Your Majesty." As he left the palace and made his way back to the ship, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. He had only offered a small act of kindness, but it had sparked something deeper, something he couldn't explain. And he wondered, as the stars stretched out before him, what the future would hold for him and the Vokar Queen. After Alex's brief encounter with Queen Ilara, he found himself unable to stop thinking about her. Her words lingered in his mind, and the mysterious connection between them seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. He had been trained to remain focused on his mission, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the Queen. Something about her presence had touched him deeply, something beyond her power and her status. Days passed, and the planet was filled with tension as the war with the rival empire continued. Alex's role was simple: deliver supplies, ensure the safety of the humans stationed here, and report back. Yet everything felt different now. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to his encounter with Ilara. Something important. It was on the third day after their meeting when Alex received a message. The message was encrypted and came from the Vokari Palace. He quickly opened it, eager to see what it was. To his surprise, the message was from Ilara herself. "Human soldier, I request your presence. Come to the palace tomorrow evening. I have something to offer you. You will not regret it." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that Alex couldn't ignore. He had no idea what she wanted, but his curiosity got the best of him. Despite the rules and his own reservations, Alex couldn't refuse. He had to go. The following evening, Alex made his way back to the Vokari Palace. The path was familiar, but his heart raced with anticipation. When he arrived, he was once again greeted by the towering spires and the grand entrance of the palace. The atmosphere felt different this time, as if the entire building was charged with a sense of purpose. Ilara was waiting for him in the same grand hall where they had spoken before. Her posture was regal as always, but there was something different in her gaze. Her eyes, usually hard and calculating, seemed softer. She smiled as he approached, but there was a hint of something more, something Alex couldn't quite place. "Thank you for coming," Ilara said as she motioned for Alex to sit. "I wanted to speak with you privately." Alex nodded, unsure of what to expect. He sat down across from her, his mind racing with possibilities. The room was quiet, the only sound coming from the distant hum of the palace's power systems. Felt intimate. Alex couldn't help but wonder what Ilara had in mind. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation," she began. "Your kindness, your willingness to offer something simple like water. It moved me in a way I didn't expect." Alex felt his heart skip a beat. He had no idea that his small act of kindness had such an impact on the Queen. He had just done what seemed natural to him, yet it had touched her deeply. not many see. Me for who I am beneath the crown, Ilara continued. They see a queen, a ruler, someone with all the answers. But I'm more than that. I am ... lonely. The vulnerability in her voice caught Alex off guard. He'd never considered the weight. That came with leadership. He had seen Ilara as the powerful queen, a figure to be feared and respected. But hearing her speak like this, it made him realize how much she had sacrificed for her people. I didn't expect you to understand, she said, looking down at her hands. But I think you do, and for that I'm grateful. Alex wasn't sure how to respond. The words were too heavy, and he felt unworthy of such honesty. I just did what anyone would do, he said softly. I didn't mean to make you feel this way. Lara looked up, her golden eyes locking onto his. You didn't make me feel anything, she said. I felt this on my own. It's something I haven't allowed myself to feel in a long time. The room seemed to grow quieter, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Alex felt a sense of connection to her, something deeper than he had ever experienced with anyone before. It was as though the walls between them had started to crumble, and he could see her for who she truly was, not just as a queen, but as a person. Ilara stood up suddenly, breaking the moment. I have something for you, she said, her voice steady once more. She walked to a nearby table, where a small, shimmering object rested. It was a crystal, glowing softly with an otherworldly light. Alex couldn't help but stare at it, mesmerized by its beauty. This, Ilara said, picking up the crystal, is an ancient gift of my people. It is a symbol of trust, and it holds great power. Alex looked at the crystal, unsure of what to make of it. What does it do? He asked, his curiosity growing. Ilara held the crystal up to the light, and for a moment it seemed to pulse with energy. It reveals hidden truths, she explained. It shows what lies beneath the surface. It can grant the wielder abilities beyond their comprehension, but it can also be dangerous if not understood properly. It is a gift, but a gift that comes with a warning. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. A gift that came with a warning? That didn't sound reassuring. You don't have to accept it, Ilara continued, her voice gentle. But I trust you, Alex. I believe you will understand its power when the time comes. Alex hesitated. He had never been one for magic or anything beyond the tangible world he knew. But something about the crystal called to him, as though it were meant for him. He reached out slowly, his fingers brushing against the cool surface of the crystal. The moment his skin touched it, he felt a surge of energy flow through him, a rush of knowledge, power, and ... something else. Something he couldn't quite understand. Ilara watched him carefully, her eyes narrowing slightly. The crystal will change you, she said. But how it changes you, that is something only you can decide. Alex looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. The crystal was not just a gift, it was a key to something greater. But what that something was, he didn't yet know. I'll accept it, he said quietly, his voice steady despite the confusion that filled his mind. Ilara nodded, her expression softening. I knew you would, she said. May this gift guide you, Alex, and may it help you see the truth of your path. As Alex took the crystal in his hands, he couldn't help but feel a sense of both fear and excitement. The future was unknown, but one thing was certain. His life would never be the same again. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed the moment he accepted the crystal from Ilara. At first, he thought it was just the rush of power, the strange sensation that surged through his body as soon as he touched it. As days passed, the changes began to feel less like a gift and more like a burden. The first thing Alex noticed was how his senses seemed to sharpen. He could hear things that weren't there before, the whispers of the wind through the trees, the faintest movements of creatures in the distance. His vision became clearer, sharper, like he could see every detail in perfect focus. Even the air felt different, as though it had become charged with energy, and he could feel it in every breath he took. But it wasn't just his senses. His mind, too, seemed to expand. Thoughts and ideas came to him with ease, and he understood things he hadn't even known he needed to understand. It was as though the crystal was unlocking parts of his brain that had long been dormant. His training as a soldier, his ability to react in battle, all seemed sharper, more instinctual. It was as if he could anticipate the moves of his enemies before they made them. The power was intoxicating, and at first Alex welcomed it. He had always been a soldier, but now he felt like something more, something beyond the human soldier he had once been. He felt invincible, capable of anything. He could feel the crystal's energy pulsing inside him, its connection to him growing stronger with each passing day. But soon, consequences began to make themselves known. The changes weren't all positive. As the power within him grew, Alex began to feel a strange pull-in, overwhelming need to be alone, to distance himself from the people around him. He had always been a quiet person, but now he found himself withdrawing even more. The voices of his fellow soldiers, the laughter of his comrades, all seemed distant, almost muffled. It was as though the crystal was slowly pushing him away. From everything he had known, it wasn't just the people around him. He started to feel disconnected from his own emotions. The power inside him was so overwhelming that it seemed to drown out everything else. The anger he had always kept under control began to surface, quick and volatile. It was as though the crystal was feeding on his emotions, amplifying them until they became impossible to manage. He would lash out without warning, his anger boiling over at the slightest provocation. Once, during a routine training exercise, he nearly lost control and injured one of his fellow soldiers. His friend John had tried to calm him down, but Alex had pushed him away, the power inside him too strong to resist. It took all of his willpower to stop himself before things went too far. But the worst part wasn't the anger, it was the loneliness. The deeper Alex delved into the power of the crystal, the more isolated he felt. The connection he had felt with Alara, the one that had drawn him to her in the first place, began to fade. It was as though the crystal was pulling him further and further away from her. He found himself thinking about her less and less, his mind consumed by the power the crystal had awakened inside him. Alara had told him that the crystal would show him the truth. It would reveal what lay beneath the surface. But what was the truth? What had he become? One night, as Alex stood alone in his quarters, looking out at the stars, he felt a deep, gnawing emptiness inside him. He had all this power, all this strength, and yet he felt more lost than ever. He had never felt so disconnected from everything. Around him, the crystal, which had once felt like a gift, now felt like a curse. It was then that Alira's face appeared in his mind. He hadn't thought about her for days, but now her image was as clear as if she were standing right in front of him. He remembered the way she had looked at him when she gave him the crystal, her golden eyes filled with trust. She had believed in him, and he had failed her. He had to see her. The next day, Alex traveled to the Vokari Palace once again, his mind made up. He needed answers. He needed to understand what was happening to him. When he arrived, Alara was waiting for him. Seemed different, too. Her face tired and drawn. Her usual strength was still there. But there was something softer in her eyes, a hint of worry, perhaps, or even fear. "You've been gone for days," she said as soon as she saw him. "I was beginning to wonder if you had changed your mind." Alex stepped closer, his voice low. "I don't understand what's happening to me. The crystal, ... It's changing me. I don't know who I am anymore." Alira's expression softened, and she stepped forward to meet him. "I knew it would be difficult," she said. "The crystal is not just a gift, it is a test. It reveals the deepest parts of you, things you may not want to see. It amplifies everything, the good and the bad." "I thought I could control it," Alex said, his voice tinged with frustration. "But it's like it's controlling me. The more power I feel, the more I push everyone away. The more I change." Lara placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle, yet firm. "You are not alone in this, Alex. The crystal may have awakened something inside you, but it is still you who chooses how to use that power. You must not let it consume you." Alex felt a wave of emotion crash over him. He wanted to believe he wanted to believe that he could control this power, that he could still be the person he used to be. But the crystal was too strong, too overwhelming, had already pushed people away, and he could feel the distance growing between him. And Alara, he wasn't sure if he could ever go back. Alara seemed to read his thoughts. This is not the end, Alex. The power inside you can be a force for good, but only if you learn to control it. You must not let the crystal define you. You must define yourself. Alex looked into her eyes, the weight of her words sinking in. He knew she was right. He had to take control of the power within him before it took control of him, but that was easier said than done. The crystal had already changed him, and now he wasn't sure if he could ever go back to the person he once was, but he had to. Try? I don't know if I can do it, Alex said quietly. You don't have to do it alone, Alara said softly. I'm here. I'll help you, just as you helped me. For the first time in days, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't beyond saving. And maybe with Alara's help he could find a way to control the power the crystal had given him. He didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long while, he was willing to face it. Days passed since Alex had returned from the Vokari Palace, and the weight of his conversation with Alara lingered in his mind. Though the connection between them had not faded, Alex still struggled to control the power the crystal had unleashed. Within him, his emotions were sharper, his thoughts faster, but at the same time, felt an increasing sense of detachment from everything and everyone around him. He began to wonder if the crystal had only made things worse, making him more distant and cold. Yet, despite the growing isolation, Alex could not help but think of Alara. He had promised her that he would control the crystal's power, but the task seemed impossible. Every time he tried to focus, to find some balance, the power surged again, pulling him away from his old self. Even now, as he stood in his quarters, Alex found himself unable to shake the feeling that something was missing. Meanwhile, Alara faced her own struggles. As queen of the Vokar Empire, she was under constant pressure. Her people had been at war for decades, and even though her army was strong, cracks were beginning to show. The Vokari Empire was powerful, but it was also exhausted. The war had taken its toll on the people, and unrest simmered beneath the surface. She had once been the fearsome ruler of a vast empire, but now she felt the weight of leadership pressing on her shoulders. The thought of Alex lingered in her mind, too. Since their last meeting, she had tried to remain focused on the welfare of her people, but the connection she felt with him was undeniable. His kindness, his sincerity, was something she had not experienced in centuries. And yet, there was a complication. Alex's struggle with the crystal mirrored her own inner turmoil. Alara had always been taught that as a queen, she must remain strong and unyielding. Her people relied on her strength, her ability to lead them through battle and hardship. Lately, Alara found herself questioning her own strength. She had kept her emotions in check for so long, suppressing them to maintain control. She couldn't afford to be weak, but now, with the thoughts of Alex clouding her mind, she wondered. If she had been wrong all along, one evening, Alara called her most trusted advisor, an elder Vokari warrior named Kale, to her chambers. He had served her family for generations and was one of the few who had never questioned her decisions. But today his face was troubled, his brow furrowed with concern. "Your Majesty," Kale said, bowing low as he entered the room. "There are whispers among the people. They fear that you are losing your focus. The war is taking its toll on our soldiers, and morale is low." Alara stood by the window, staring out at the stars. The vast emptiness of space seemed to mirror the emptiness she felt inside. She had led her people to victory many times, but now, victory seemed far out of reach. "I have heard the same," Alara replied, her voice soft but firm. "But my duty is to my people. I cannot allow myself to show weakness." Kale stepped forward, his voice gentle. "And yet, Your Majesty, I see the change in you. There is something different, something that has shifted in your heart. Perhaps it is time to confront it." Alara's eyes narrowed, and she turned to face him. "What do you mean?" Kale hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You have always been a queen, Alara, a symbol of strength and power. But even the strongest warriors must rest. Even the most powerful rulers must listen to their hearts. You have been burying your emotions for so long, and now they are starting to surface. You are not immune to them." Ilara looked away, her mind racing. Kale's words struck a chord with her. She had always thought of herself as a leader first, a ruler who had to remain strong for the good of her people. But lately, she felt torn between her duties as queen and the emotions she had long ignored. She had tried to suppress them too, push them down, but it wasn't working anymore. "You speak of emotions as though they are a weakness," Ilara said, her voice sharp. "I have no time for such things." Kale stepped closer, his voice softening. "Perhaps it is not the emotions themselves that are weak, but the refusal to acknowledge them. Ah! You are a queen, but you are also a person. And I see the pain in your eyes, the conflict within you. Perhaps it is time to accept it, to allow yourself to feel." Lara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She'd always prided herself on her control, on her ability to remain composed in any situation. But the truth was, she had been suppressing her feelings for so long that it had begun to feel like a prison. And now, the key to that prison had come in the form of Alex, the human soldier who had shown her kindness. The connection between them had awakened something deep inside her, something she wasn't sure she was ready to face. "I will consider your words," Ilara said, her tone softer than before. "But I cannot allow my people to suffer because of my doubts." Kale nodded respectfully. "I know, Your Majesty. But remember, your people follow you not just because of your strength, but because of your heart. Do not lose sight of that." As Kale left, Ilara stood alone in her chambers, her thoughts heavy. She had spent so long hiding her emotions that she didn't know how to confront them. But Kale's words rang in her ears. She couldn't keep ignoring what was inside her. She had to face it. And in that moment, she realized something else. Her feelings for Alex were not a distraction or a weakness. They were part of who she was. They were a part of what made her human, despite the fact that she was Vokari. Perhaps it was time to embrace that part of herself, to allow herself to feel, just as Alex had done. The next day, Ilara made a decision. She would seek out Alex. She would confront the feelings she had been avoiding. It was not just about the crystal, not just about the power, it was about something deeper, something that had been awakened between them. And she was ready to face it, whatever the consequences might be. As she prepared to leave her chambers, Ilara felt a sense of resolve settle within her. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she was ready to face it, not as a queen, but as herself. Alex had spent the last few days in deep reflection. The power within him, awakened by the crystal, was beginning to consume him in ways he hadn't anticipated. He tried to push through it, to continue with his duties, but every time he tried, he felt more disconnected from everything around him. The quiet whispers of his fellow soldiers, the distant hum of the military base, all felt so far away. He didn't know what was happening to him, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't go on like this much longer. His thoughts often turned to Ilara, to the queen who had given him the crystal. She had trusted him, believed in him, and yet he was struggling to control what she had bestowed upon him. It wasn't just the power of the crystal that troubled him, it was the emotions that had come with it. Emotions he hadn't experienced in years. The sense of longing, of connection to someone beyond his mission, was overwhelming. And yet he knew that the more he let himself feel, the further he would be pulled away from everything he had known. In the quiet of his quarters, Alex stood before a small mirror, gazing at his reflection. The man looking back at him was still the same soldier he had always been, strong, focused, and determined, but there was something different now. His eyes held a depth that hadn't been there before, as though the crystal had shown him something about himself that he hadn't known existed. But it wasn't just power he had gained. There was a new awareness, a new understanding of himself, of his desires, and of the pull that connected him to Ilara. Ilara's face appeared in his mind, and for a moment, Alex could almost hear her voice. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the crystal's power inside him. It was both a gift and a curse. He had tried to push the feelings away, to focus on the mission, but they wouldn't let him go. The sound of footsteps outside his quarters interrupted his thoughts. Alex turned, his heart racing as the door opened. To his surprise, it was Ilara. She stood in the doorway, her regal figure framed by the dim light of the corridor. Her presence was commanding, yet there was something softer about her now. Her usual confidence seemed tempered by something more vulnerable, something Alex hadn't seen before. "Alex," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of unspoken emotions. "I've been looking for you." Alex swallowed, unsure of how to respond. He had expected to see her, but the reality of her presence before him made his heart beat faster. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. "What brings you here?" Alara stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "I needed to speak with you," she replied, her gaze not leaving him. "The crystal. About us." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had known this moment was coming, but he hadn't been prepared for it. He had been avoiding her for days, unsure of what to say, unsure of what he was feeling. But now, standing in front of her, everything seemed clearer. He couldn't hide from this connection any longer. "I don't understand what's happening to me," Alex said, his voice filled with frustration. "The crystal, ... it's changing me. It's making me feel things I don't know how to control. I don't know who I am anymore." Ilara walked toward him, her eyes filled with compassion. "I know," she said softly. "I've been feeling the same way. The crystal doesn't just unlock power. It unlocks everything inside us, our deepest desires, our hidden fears, connects us to things we might not be ready to face." Alex looked at her, his mind racing. "I don't know how to handle this," he admitted. "I feel like I'm losing myself." Lara reached out, her hand gently brushing against his. "You're not losing yourself, Alex. You're just discovering parts of yourself you didn't know existed." He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The power of the crystal surged inside him again, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just the crystal's power he was feeling, it was the emotions he had been suppressing. The connection to Alara, the deep, undeniable pull that seemed to guide his every thought, every action. "I never expected this," Alex said quietly, looking into Alara's eyes. "I never thought I'd feel this way about you." Lara's breath caught in her throat. She had felt the same way, but she hadn't known how to say it. She had tried to bury her emotions, to focus on her duties as queen, but now, standing before Alex, everything felt different. She could no longer ignore the truth. "I didn't expect it either," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But here we are." For a moment the world around them seemed to fade away. There was no war, no crystal, no power, just the two of them, standing in the quiet of the room, their hearts beating in sync. Ilara took a step closer, her hand still resting on Alex's. She had always been in control, always the ruler, but with Alex, she felt a vulnerability she hadn't known she could feel. And yet, it wasn't weakness. It was strength, the kind that came from trusting someone else, from allowing herself to be seen. "I've been fighting this," Alara admitted. "Fighting the way I feel. I thought I couldn't afford to care. But now, ... I can't deny it any longer. I care about you, Alex. I don't know what this is, but I can't push it away." Alex felt his heart swell with emotion. He had always been a soldier, focused on the mission, on survival. But now, for the first time, he realized that there was more to life than duty. There was love, there was connection, and there was the undeniable bond he shared with Alara. "I care about you too," he said, his voice steady, despite the rush of emotions. "But what does this mean? What do we do now?" Lara's eyes softened. "I don't know what it means, but I know that I can't face this alone, and I don't want you to face it alone either." Alex nodded, his heart beating faster as he took her hand in his. "We'll face it together," he said, the certainty in his voice surprising even himself. For the first time in what felt like forever, Alex didn't feel alone. And in that moment, neither did Alara. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, not as a queen and a soldier, but as two people bound by something stronger than any crystal's power. The connection between them was undeniable, and no matter the challenges that lay ahead, they knew they would face them side by side. The war raged on across the galaxy, and though Alex and Alara had shared their feelings, the reality of their responsibilities loomed over them. The crystal had given them power, but it also left them vulnerable, caught in a web of emotions and choices they hadn't anticipated. The future was uncertain, and the war seemed endless. Yet for the first time in a long while, Alex didn't feel completely lost. He had Alara beside him. Days after their conversation, they found themselves facing an unexpected alliance. The rival empire they had been fighting for so long, the Theranok, had struck a blow that left many systems in chaos. Their forces were stronger than expected, and the Vokari Empire was under threat of collapse. Despite the crystal's power, Alara knew that she couldn't do it alone. And Alex, as much as he had learned to embrace the crystal's abilities, couldn't stand by and watch helplessly. Together, they met to discuss their next move. In the Vokari Palace, beneath the looming shadows of stone walls and ancient tapestries, Alex sat across from Alara, his hands clenched in frustration. The war, their emotions, and the uncertainty of the future were all too much, thought he knew. One thing he couldn't walk away from this. Not now, not after everything they had shared. "Alara, what's our next step?" Alex asked, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "The Thernok won't stop. If we don't act soon, we'll lose everything." Alara nodded, her expression grim. The weight of her people's survival rested on her shoulders, and she knew that Alex was right. Crystal had given them both incredible abilities, but it was their will and unity that would win the war, not just the raw power they had gained. "We need to unite the galaxy, Alex. Our people, the humans, the Vokaria enemies, have learned to fear us. Now, we need to show them that we can work together." Alara's eyes met Alex's, her voice softening. "Can't let fear divide us any longer." Alex stood, pacing the room. The idea of peace had always seemed like a distant dream, something idealistic, something impossible. But with Alara by his side, he was starting to see that it wasn't just a dream. It was something they could make a reality. They had the power, the strength, and now it's the resolve to see it through. "We'll need to convince the other races to join us," Alex said. "Not just by showing them the crystal's power, but by showing them that we can change the future." Together, Alara rose from her seat, her presence commanding. "We'll start with a message. A call for peace and unity. I will send it to every planet in the galaxy, every system. We won't win this war through force alone." Selarov spoke. Alex could see the fire in her eyes. She was the queen, the leader of an empire, but she was also a person, someone who understood the deeper need for connection. She had fought for so long, but now her heart was set on something more than just victory. She was fighting for the future of her people, for a future where peace was possible. "I'll help you send the message," Alex said, his voice filled with resolve. "We've fought for so long, but now it's time to do something different." Alara smiled, a rare, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Together, we'll show the galaxy that there is more to us than just war." The next few days were a blur of activity. Alex and Alara worked tirelessly, preparing their forces and organizing the communication channels. The message was simple, but powerful: a call for peace, a request for all races to lay down their arms and join together in a new era of cooperation. It was a risk, a huge risk, but it was the only chance they had. When the time came, Alara stood before the communication panel, her hands steady as she sent the message to every corner of the galaxy. Her words were strong, filled with the hope that had long been buried beneath the weight of war. She spoke not just as a queen, but as a person who had learned that there was more to life than power and control. "This is Queen Alara of the Vokari Empire," she began, her voice echoing through the channel. "I speak not only as a ruler, but as a living being who has seen the toll of war. We have fought for too long, and we have lost too much. It is time for a new path, one where we can unite, not divide. I call upon all beings of this galaxy, human Vokari, all who seek peace, to come together and build a future of understanding, of cooperation. Together, we are stronger than any army. Together, we can shape the galaxy into a place where war is a memory, not a way of life. Join me and let us start anew." Her message was met with silence at first. Alex stood beside her, his heart pounding in his chest as they waited for a response. The Thernok had to hear this. The other factions, those who had fought for so long, had to hear this. Then a faint transmission came through. It was from a representative of the Thuranaka leader of their military faction, someone who had once been their fiercest enemy. "We've received your message," the voice crackled through the speakers. "And we, ... we are willing to listen. Perhaps it is time for a change." The words hung in the air, heavy with the possibility of something new. Ilara turned to Alex, her eyes filled with hope. For the first time in a long while, the weight of the future didn't seem so heavy. The weeks that followed were filled with tense negotiations and careful diplomacy. But with each passing day, the hope of peace grew stronger. The leaders of the galaxy began to listen. The war-torn factions, once enemies, now began to see the possibility of a united future. It wasn't easy, and there were many challenges ahead, but for the first time, the galaxy's future didn't seem as bleak. Alex and Ilara continued to work together, their bond growing stronger as they fought not just for victory, but for a new world, one where peace wasn't just a dream, but a reality. The crystal had changed them both. But it wasn't just the power that had made the difference, it was their willingness to change, to embrace a future where unity was possible. And as they stood together, looking out at the stars, Alex knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. The future they were building together was one of hope, and together they would shape it with their hearts and their actions.